Welcome back to Four More Pages. I'm Maya Clark, and I'm joined by Lauren Pronger. You are the owner of Chapterhouse Book Store here in Amarillo, and you guys are located on Route 66. And so tell me a little bit about how Chapterhouse Book Store came to be.
Sure. So right now we're located at 3317 Southwest 6. It's right across from San Jacinto Christian Academy.
Yeah.
I started the store back in 2022. I was born in Amarillo. I was raised here. I went away for college, and then I came back in about 2020 and spent a couple years at various jobs, doing various things locally and regionally. And I was getting back into reading. I'd always been a big reader as a kid, and I had just started learning how to get back into reading after like higher education, which kind of like takes the fun out of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I couldn't find the books that I wanted to read, and it was just coming out of the pandemic. And so a lot of places had shut down or weren't open, and it was hard to find a lot of things. So I just kind of decided that while I still had my day job on the weekends, I would start a pop-up bookstore and see. We got some donations in from friends and family, and I bought a small selection of used books from a wholesaler, and we started doing pop-ups around town. Mostly we started at our community church, actually, and then did some other kind of community events around. But I really just wanted to recommend books that I love to people, and I wanted to bring the kinds of books that I liked reading and recommending to the community because they weren't here at that time.
Perfect. And so tell me about the mission of your bookstore.
Sure. So my mission really is to carry books that represent everyone in Amarillo. So I want people who come in to be able to recognize themselves and also recognize their neighbors and their friends.
Perfect. And so, you mentioned this was after the pandemic and you were in school, and school definitely takes the fun out of reading.
Yes.
I was just talking about that. I was like, when I was in school, I'm like, I didn't read for pleasure because you're like focused on reading so much, like for school and for not necessarily pleasure, but just like comprehension and to be able to like say what you read about. But then after you get out of school, it's like, I actually do like reading.
Yeah.
I just want to read what I want to read.
Yeah.
So for you, what was that transition like going from, being in school to being like, okay, I actually do like reading and I want to find the books that speak to me and represent me as a person?
Sure. So I actually, straight out of college, when I first started trying to get back into reading, I was working for my college in their tech department. And so because I was still working on campus, I just used the campus library. And it took a few false starts, because I found I couldn't just jump straight back in where I had left off. A lot of the longer novels are more complex, like world building. I'm a big sci-fi fantasy fan, and trying to keep all of that in my head when you're just starting out to like get back into the habit of reading can be really tough. And so I started reading more young adult and juvenile or middle grade, which is kind of like the 8 to 12 range. And those were really fun because it doesn't have the more depressing nature that adult books can have sometimes. Because adult books love to deal with real world calamities. But it was focused on the character and the adventure. And so it would still take a while to get through. It took a long time to build my attention habit back up to be able to focus for like a long form piece of content, right? But I think the ones that really started grabbing me were the ones that I hadn't been reading as much even when I was a kid. So I grew up with a lot of Tamora Pierce. That was my big fantasy thing as a kid. And then I started reading what is it? I can see the cover in my head. There was one book that really jump-started my reading again. I'm going to look it up real fast for a second. I can see the cover.
Like that happens. It's like, that it. It's like it's right on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah. A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney.
Okay.
It is a young adult fantasy about a black nerd who cosplays, and it's like an Alice in Wonderland retelling. So she falls into Wonderland and has to save it, and it was a lot of fun. So I think diversifying my own reading is what got me back into reading.
Yeah.
Because it was new to me. And so it made me fall back in love with something that wasn't like, oh, I'd already read this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so when I was, looking at Troll's website, I pulled this up because I was like, I want to make sure I get this right. It says, we are a local LGBT-owned bookstore in Amarillo, Texas, prioritizing GSRM, racialized and migrant stories. What does this mean? We sell new and used books that prioritize the literary representation of all Amarillo communities, especially those which are traditionally underrepresented, like our migrant, LGBT+, Black, Vietnamese, and other communities. And so when you started this, and it started as a pop-up and then you moved to a storefront, what was the importance of having this space for those communities of people who maybe feel underrepresented?
Right. So I think we'd gotten a lot of support from our pop-up. People loved the idea. They loved seeing the books. They loved supporting us. They loved seeing themselves. But we couldn't really be the community space that we wanted as a pop-up. Like, if we're only open 4 hours on a Saturday at a random coffee shop, that's not like a community space. Or at least it's not a space that we can curate and that people can come to when they need it. So we had been looking for a space, and we found this one. And it's actually, we really lucked out because it's the building that we always looked at when we drove by on 6th Street, because it was our favorite building from the outside.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that it was available and we could move in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, now that we are a physical space, we're able to host a lot of community events. We have people who come in to do work. Actually, today we had someone come in to take meeting and do work on their laptop remotely. And so we do have a lot of people who can come in now, and it's also a very sensory-friendly space.
Yeah.
And so people always remark when they first come in that it's like, oh, it's so calming in here, it's so relaxing, because we've got a very chill playlist, and we have lots of live plants, which people find surprising that they're real plants. And it's fairly low lighting, and it's meant to be a space where you can come in and sit down and read. You don't have to buy things. It really is meant to be a community space. It is a store, obviously, but we try to make sure that there are lots of comfy chairs and places to sit down. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are still discovering us. And yeah, I think let's see. This is where my brain goes off the rails. Sorry. I think being in a brick and mortar space has ensured that we can really provide the space for the community that we wanted. Yeah, I think tonight, actually, we even have an organization meeting for PFLAG Amarillo. They host their monthly meetings. And so tonight they're doing their White Elephant party for December. So yeah.
That's really fun. And, you mentioned that you guys also have community events. And so bookstores and reading books, it allows people to create a sense of community. And so what's the importance of just, having this space where not only people who maybe they're book lovers, but maybe they're new to it, they can come and kind of connect with other people who maybe are new to reading, or, they're your avid book readers who are getting through 100 books a year. What's the importance of having just a community space where people from all walks of life can come?
Yeah, I think literacy is in a pretty dangerous spot in terms of just the American populace, and especially Texas, and especially with kids after all the remote learning from COVID, and even with adults, everyone I talk to, it's, after scrolling on TikTok or Instagram all day, it's hard to sit for more than 2 minutes at a time, right? So most of the people I talk to, even if they have been lifelong readers or if they're just trying to get into reading, they want something that will help them get back into that habit, or something that's a good kind of gateway book to the world of reading. And so a lot of the books that we have in there are novellas, or there's actually one series I recommend all the time. It's the Singing Hills Cycle by Nevo, and it's a fantastic fantasy series, but each book is standalone. Like, you can read them in any order.
Okay.
So you can kind of just pick and choose where your starting point is, which is awesome. And then there's no pressure to read the rest of the series. Like, you can, and it's great. But it's just a nice little, and they're like 120 pages.
Okay.
So those are ones that I always recommend. But I think having things that are different lengths or different intensities, both in terms of like complexity of the literature, but also the complexity of ideas and how like dark or light the things happening in it are. And also just, I mean, obviously having the diversity of representation in the books. So like we have books in Spanish as well, because we know that it's important for Spanish speakers to be able to have books that are for them. like if we want people to be literate, we need to have things that they can read and that are interesting to them. And we also have a lot of graphic novels for the same thing. There are a lot of parents who come in and want books for their kids who are dyslexic or were one of those remote learning kids for COVID, and so just are behind in reading, but they don't want to read a kid's book, right?
Right.
So graphic novels are great. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of research out there that if I quote, I'm going to get wrong, but there is research out there that says that, like, kids especially, but everyone, if they can find a book that represents them, that has someone on the cover that looks like them, that has a similar cultural background in the story to them, they read more and they comprehend more of what they're reading. And so that's just really important, and that's what we wanted to do. I mean, our goal was to have books for everyone, but part of that was also seeing the literacy crisis in Texas especially, just knowing that it might help to have books that people would want to read, and that would represent them.
Perfect. And so, you mentioned literacy. It's such a big thing, and we talk about that constantly in our meetings that we have here. And I think a lot of times people think of literacy and they think it's only something that's impacting kids, but it's impacting adults.
It is.
As well. And so for you to be able to have a space where adults can come in and, maybe they weren't a strong reader growing up, maybe they still aren't, but, they have a safe space. I guess what difference have you seen that make, just from the people who maybe they first heard about you guys, now they keep coming back in, and the difference that's made in their reading journey?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of people who come in, sometimes they come in to buy a gift for a friend and then get distracted, right? Or they just get excited by the books I'm recommending for their friend. But a lot of people do come in specifically because they're like, I am trying to get back into reading. And nothing is working. And most of those people do come back. Like, I'll recommend something, and then they'll come back and be like, this was great. I could finish it. I need something else. And it does make a big difference, I think. I mean, literature in any capacity, right? Like, there's no such thing as a real book. A book is a book. And as long as you're reading, it makes such a difference. It changes your attention habits. It changes your vocabulary. It changes your reading and thought patterns. And it's also just, I think, it helps with a lot of things like media literacy in some ways, too. Just if you can read something that talks about a topic, even if it does it through a fictional lens, then you have some experience with that topic. And then if you see it on the news, you can have reference. And so stuff like that is also very important. But yeah, we have a lot of people who come back. A lot of them have joined our book club and have just become part of like the bookish community, which is really nice. Or they'll come back for our other things, like we have game nights, and they'll come back for the PFLAG meeting. So it's not just that they get back into reading, but they also tend to find community and make friends, which is also very important.
We've talked about the importance of literacy, but social media, I think, has had a really big impact on people getting back into reading recently, especially like with the pandemic. It was like, here are all these books that I'm reading, and Book Talk is huge.
Book Talk is big, yeah.
And so how is Book Talk impacting your business, like as an owner? Do you get people who are like, I saw this book on TikTok and I want to know if you guys have it coming in?
All the time, except usually they've already read the book.
Okay.
We don't carry a lot of the Book Talk books because normally if people have seen them, they've already read them.
Okay.
Like they don't come in to buy them.
Okay.
They'll come in to show them to their friend. Or they'll come in to just see if we have it.
Mm-hmm.
But they often, I mean, we almost never get people who come in just to buy it.
Yeah.
So I think most of those are people already have their pre-order spots, like Barnes & Noble, you know, it's on their list.
Yeah.
But it has definitely changed. It's gotten a lot of people back into reading, which is great. I think it's also changed kind of the perception of various genres.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the book talk books, for example, are romance or romantasy. Romantasy, I think, is a genre that was kind of born out of TikTok.
Yes.
It's become its whole phenomenon. Most of the publishers have imprints specifically for romantasy now that popped up like in the last 2 years. But yeah, I mean, I think like when I was growing up, romance books were like historical, like mass market paperbacks, right? They were pretty like niche subset of the publishing industry, or it felt like it as a consumer. But because of TikTok, that's now become such a big thing, and it's more like a status symbol almost now. There's lots of merch, and so it's getting people back into reading, and that's really the main, that's the goal, right?
Yes, that is the goal. And so for you, what's been, I guess, one of the key lessons you've learned since, you know, going from a storefront to having, or from having a pop-up shop to now having a storefront? What's been a lesson that you've learned, just not about just owning a business, but about reading and just in general?
That is a tough question. I would say, even though our goal was community from the start, and knowing that that's really what we wanted to cultivate, I think I'm still surprised at how much community is really the backbone of everything.
Yeah.
Not just what we do, but like the success of the store, and not necessarily like from a financial perspective, but just as a place to go in the community, or a place that I want to go to, right, every day. Community really is essential, and we have seen such a great community come out of it. I've met a ton of friends out of it. A lot of our regulars have become friends, and yeah, it's just amazing to see the community that has been born out of it and that it has started cultivating. I think especially when we started as a pop-up, there were people who would stop by and come seek us out because, and we heard this over and over again, that like, I didn't think anyone else was like this in Amarillo. I didn't think anyone else felt this way or thought this way or had the same worldview. Yeah. And we used to kind of joke that like, if we could just, like the number of times we've heard that, if we could just get all of those people together, right, you would all be friends. And I think becoming a storefront, that has started happening because people run into each other more, and because we have all the events, they're able to meet each other. And especially like with our book club, because that's really our main community event, it's been really fun to see people start talking about how they've been hanging out outside of book club. Like now they're friends and they know their families. And like it really has just become a community hub, and that's what we really wanted it to be from the start. So it feels weird to say that we underestimated that, but I think we kind of did. Yeah.
Perfect. And so 2025, it's basically in the books. It's essentially over. 2026 is really here. What are your top 4 books that you read from 2025?
Oh, that's a tough question. Let's see. I'm going to pull out my reading app. Take a look at the books. There's one that I know for sure because I just read it. But let me see what else have I read this year.
While you're looking through the books you've read, do you set a goal at the start of each year of how many books you want to read, or do you just read?
I do set a goal, but it's not... I always undershoot it.
Okay.
because I think it's kind of a silly thing to like punish yourself for if you didn't read enough books, right? And I know that I'm going to feel guilty if I don't meet the goal.
Yeah.
So I try to set one that I know I'm going to meet, like no matter what.
Yeah.
Because it's more just, it's fun to see how many books I can read, but it's not something that I'm like competitive about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Let's see. I read a lot of kids' books.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like picture books in here too. Okay, I've got 2 or 3.
Okay.
Let's see. Does it count if it actually comes out next year, but I read it this year?
No, that counts.
Okay.
That counts. Yeah, that counts.
Okay.
You read it this year.
Yeah.
So that counts.
Okay. Oh, there's so many good ones. Hold on. This is tough. This is tougher than I thought it was going to be. This is a question I should have prepared for. Okay, I have 3 for sure.
Okay.
So the first one, the one that first came to mind, actually comes out in April of 2026, and it's called The Language of Liars by S.L. Huang.
Okay.
We have read her previous book, The Water Outlaws, for our book club, but which was a fantasy. This one is a science fiction. It's like 170 pages, and it does the thing that I love the most about science fiction, is that it talks about very real-world philosophical things through the lens of like space aliens, right? So it seems like it's not serious, but then you think about it and it like totally changes your worldview. It's about, it's hard to say what it's about without spoiling it, but it's about language, obviously. It's very linguistics heavy, but you don't have to understand the linguistics to understand the book.
Okay.
I would say the heart of it is the colonial violence inherent in inserting yourself into other cultures in order to study them.
Okay.
So there are some kind of trigger warnings for it, even though it's aliens in science fiction, right? But it is very, very interesting. And I think especially anyone that goes into higher education to study anyone besides themselves should read this book.
Yeah.
Because it is really interesting and it's really sad. But it's very well done.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. This is a picture book.
Okay.
It's called Min and the Magic Grains of Rice by Don Nguyen Ha. Vietnamese author.
Okay.
Not great with my Vietnamese pronunciation. It's kind of like a folk tale. It's a kid who's really picky and doesn't want to eat his rice, and then gets kind of thrown into this mythological retelling that, as the book explains, I think is a traditional Vietnamese retelling, but I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
But basically it goes through like all of the work that it takes to get the grains of rice to your table. And so how you should respect that and like respect the work of the farmers and respect the environmental impact of the food on your table. But it does it all through like a traditional folk song. It's really cute. The illustrations are really cute.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can read just as a story, but then in the back it has a lot of informational nonfiction back matter about like where the song originated and where some of the figures that are drawn are like originate from, and kind of how to deal with food waste and stuff. So it's just very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's really cute. And then a third one is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu.
Okay.
And that is a young adult, although I might classify it as a new adult because it's very mature.
Okay.
Literary. We read that for our book club, and it is about the Syrian war.
Okay.
She's a teenager who just started medical school, and because of everything happening, like, she ends up working in the hospital, treating people who have been hurt in the war. And it's really sad. There's some parts in it where some of our book club members almost had to stop reading it. But it's very, very well done, and I think we ended up describing it as like, it is a romance book, but it is a love letter between the characters, but it's mostly a love letter to Syria, the country. It's gonna make me cry. It's really good.
I think, you mentioned that it's kind of a love letter. It's a love letter to Syria. And I have not read this book, but I think that, I don't know if you've heard of the singer Olivia Dean.
I don't think so.
She has a new album, and she, she touches on the fact that love looks different for different people, for different places, and that love is in everything that we do.
Yeah.
And I think that you, mentioning that, it automatically made me think of that, because I'm like, that's true. It's like love can be between people, but it can be between someone in a place.
Yeah.
And so I think that, especially, when you think of your home and you think of, what goes on at your home, whether it's something that's great or something that leaves you reeling from it afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like this love between two things.
Yeah.
Which is always interesting to see, because, I'm not from Amarillo. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, but it's like, I love Tallahassee.
Yeah.
It's my home. My family's there,
Yeah.
and so, to think of it in that context of writing, a love letter to the place where I'm from, I think it connects people. And, like you said, the whole purpose of seeing people and connecting people from different places and different backgrounds, and that book seems like it's the perfect way to do that, because you get to see something from someone else's perspective and through their eyes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that book in particular was very impactful for a lot of us, because the imagery and the images that take place in the book are what a lot of us have seen coming out of Palestine.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy to imagine what was happening and visualize what was happening, because we've seen it in real life, or, through a screen.
Yeah.
That in some ways kind of made it easier, I say with quotation marks, because you could see what they were trying to get across. But obviously it made it really harder to understand that you have seen this, and it's not just one place that it happens to.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, I think we all agreed it was one of the best books we have ever read for a book club, but it was a tough one to get through.
Yeah.
Okay, the fourth one is Mistress of Bones by Maria Z. Medina.
Okay.
This one is a young adult fantasy. As I said, I'm a fantasy fan. It's, oh man. I feel like I should be better at describing books, because that's my job, but it's hard to get it condensed into a little,
I think it's hard when you don't want to give spoilers, and you also just, you've read so many, and so it's like, hold on, let me really think about it.
Yeah, I read this one back in February. So it's been a minute. It's, the main character is a necromancer, and necromancy is forbidden. Okay. Because she lives in a country that worships the god of death, and so it's seen as kind of heretical to interfere in the realm of death, right? But really her main goal is her sister. Her sister falls apart, literally just becomes bones when they set foot on this country. Wow. And so everyone is like, something's wrong. God is mad at them, the god of death is mad at them, or something is wrong here. And so the emissary of death comes and tries to basically confirm her heresy. But her goal is really just to bring her sister back to life through necromancy. And so it's a very interesting fantasy. A lot of the world building is fascinating. It feels, I believe it's based kind of more on Spain. But for me, it felt like it was set in Venice. There's a lot of rivers and bridges over rivers, and people are wearing masks to hide their face. It felt very like The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funk, you know?
Yeah.
But there is kind of a maybe romantic tension between the emissary and the necromancer, but it's clear that they each have their own goal. Like, as much as the necromancer fascinates the emissary, his main goal really is just to make sure that his god, like the will of his god, is done, and the necromancer will not let anything stop her from bringing her sister back. So it is kind of one of those, like, me and my sibling against the world tropes, which is really fun, but having one of them be dead is interesting.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciated the world building. The world is built, like, literally the land is built on the god's bones.
Okay.
And so they mine the god's bones because it looks very pretty, but then some people think that that's heresy.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see the different fictional cultures take on this fictional world.
Yeah.
But also it felt, I try really hard not to guess what's going to happen in books because I want to be surprised.
Okay.
That said, this book was always one step ahead of me. Like there were a lot of times where I was like, oh, this is going to happen, and it's going to be kind of like trite and disappointing.
Yeah.
But then it twisted it and did
Yeah.
something different. And so it was really interesting, and it's a debut novel too, which is, it doesn't feel like a debut.
Yeah.
It also has a really pretty cover, which doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I think I've read that one like twice this year, actually, because I read it the first time, and then it came out on audiobook, and I was like, oh, now I want to listen to it. So yeah, it was a good one too.
Are you a big audiobook person?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I have discovered I can read certain genres on audiobook,
Okay.
and others I can't.
Okay. That makes sense.
Like, I really struggle with reading literary fiction in print because I get bored and my brain wanders.
Yeah.
But if I listen to it, then it's fine.
Okay.
And the opposite is true of fantasy. I can read fantasy in print. It's great. On audio, I can't keep track of the world building. So.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Are there any books on your TBR list this year that you're really excited about?
Too many. Always too many. Right now, I think I just started. I'm on chapter 1 or chapter 2 of A Divine Inheritance by Camilla Cole, and that comes out December 30th. I'm really excited for that one. It's a dark academia, but it's about, like, the Black experience at a white Ivy League and how that has happened throughout history. So it's like Legendborn kind of did the same concept by Tracy Dion, but that was young adult, and I believe this one is adult.
Okay.
So it's aged up a little bit, and it's more dark academia rather than just fantasy. So I'm very interested in it, and it's supposed to delve more into the politics of it, which I find very interesting. So yeah.
Cool. And before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share about Chapterhouse Book Store or just about reading in general?
I think just reiterating that reading is reading. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a comic book or a 400-page nonfiction tome, you know, reading. Yeah. As long as you're reading, you're reading. Audiobooks and graphic novels definitely count as reading.
Yeah.
An audiobook is basically just a podcast. So if you like podcasts, try audiobooks. And long-form content is deeply important. And I think we need to start prioritizing it again. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Lauren, I appreciate you for being here with me today. This was a great talk. I feel like with your audiobook statement, you just settled the debate between are audiobooks real?
Yeah.
it's really debated.
It is.
And I'm like, I think my problem with audiobooks is that I will, like, start doing other stuff as I'm listening to it, and then I'm like, wait, what? And so then I have to go back, and if the character doesn't match, like, how I think they should sound, then it kind of, like, throws me for a loop.
The narrator makes a big difference, for sure. There are some narrators that I can't listen to.
Yeah.
I've tried. Even for books that I love, I can't. The narrator makes a big difference. And the speed at which you listen to audiobooks make a big difference.
Yes.
And it doesn't, people will tell you you're reading too fast or you're reading too slow. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as it works for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Just read.
Yeah, just read.
Just read. All right. Well, thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We're going to see you on the next episode of 4 More Pages. Thanks for joining.